I know just as well as you do now that this is a ridiculously stupid thing even to think, much less attempt. Eventually, my mom would fly into town to visit me. She lives in a state without casinos and enjoys going. She repeatedly mentioned how she couldn't wait to go to the casino and see how lucky I was. I had to make up an excuse for not having all the money I told about in my stories. I felt guilty and dirty lying about something as trivial as losing $15,000, but I didn't want anybody to know that I had given some back like an idiot. Caving into this feeling of shame and accepting my willingness to hide it would ultimately be my downfall. After my mother left, I had no other people to be accountable to. The casino offered me $250 weekly and $250 every weekend in free play. I went back to the casino twice a week. Of course, to collect the free play. However, with my betting habits of occasionally betting $10 to $50 a spin, that amount of money can last from 3 minutes to literal seconds. Once it's gone, I'm at the cashier asking for money because I'm withdrawing $3,000 at a time, an amount the ATMs didn't allow me to take. I lost the money over and over, week after week, losing $3,000 or even $10,000. One day I saw my banking app note, "You spent $30,000 less so far this month than last month." And my heart sank. I knew I needed to stop. And I just needed to bet bigger and have one of those good days to get me up maybe $20K, $30K out of my now missing $60, $80K, and I just cut my losses there. This logic carried me for months as I spiraled. I stopped going to the casino altogether, and the allure eventually faded. A few months later, I discovered online casinos. I thought they were all illegal or didn't accept us customers until I found one that did. I deposited a few $100 and could play slots and table games while lying in bed at night. The convenience of depositing money straight from my bank account into a slot machine was so easy. Too easy. I eventually lost everything I had in my savings account. I felt empty. I felt nothing. Well, fuck it, what's another 10K at this point? Thoughts started creeping in. I used a credit card to see if it would even work, and to my disappointment, it did. I ran up the limit on my credit card, hoping to win enough to pay it back off. When I reached the max, I requested a limit increase, which was granted, and then ran it up again. Out of sources of money, I decided to withdraw money out of my Roth IRA into my personal account. The wire took less than 20 minutes the first time. I felt guilty. I felt a rush of anxiety and thrill as I then immediately deposited that money into the online casino. I turned 10K into $0 in a matter of hours. I started depositing increments of $1,000 because that was reasonable and less money, but I'd lose it and do it again minutes later. Again, reasonable small increment. When bills came due, I didn't have the money for them, so I justified another withdrawal from my retirement account. This time it was to pay bills, so I need this. I'd withdraw more than needed for the bills and blow the rest. During all of this, there were moments where I turned $100 into $20,000 or $1,000 into $10,000 in minutes. It wasn't all losses, which is what kept me hooked. If I could turn $100 into $20,000, just think about what I could do with $1,000. I could get it all back. I kept withdrawing money from my retirement account until I had withdrawn so much that the amount left would no longer cover the taxes I now owed on the income and penalties incurred from early withdrawing money from my retirement account. I was so ashamed I didn't want anybody to know about this. I told no one. My closest friends are all wealthy as I was, but without a gaping hole in their bank accounts. It got harder and harder to keep up with going out to eat, golf, etc. My new house doesn't have the basic furniture required to host guests, and there is no large sofa or reasonable dining table. It grew increasingly difficult to justify to all my friends why I hadn't had anyone over and hadn't bought a couch or basic furniture. The crippling guilt and anxiety over my looming tax obligation forced me to come clean to my best friend. I feel bad for not saying something sooner. It could have saved my future. I'm still reeling in shock with what I've done. It all happened over a single year, most of it over the last 6 months. I've since stopped entirely. I've got my budget back on track, and I plan to cover taxes and move on with my life. Talking to my friend about it put it all into perspective. In hindsight, I felt like I was in a massively depressed fog, not thinking clearly and not caring about my well-being. It all happened so fast. I will be dealing with the fallout from this for the rest of my life, but the next few months and years will likely be the most difficult as I pay off all the debt I've foolishly accrued and try to get my life back together. I hope this post reminds everyone not to gamble because winning might be the worst thing that happens to you.